Well, good afternoon and happy Friday. Unfortunately, my home game that was scheduled for today got switched to an away game, so I am not here. So today will be a video lesson like the last time. Don't forget, you have to watch till the end or you won't get credit for watching the video. So make sure you let it play until the end and then you'll get credit for it. So let me go over a couple of homework questions first. Just a reminder, our test is on Tuesday. Today we have a short lesson, which is actually fairly easy once you get the hang of it. That's the last topic, and then the homework will be reviewed tonight, and then we'll review more on Monday. So let's go over number 39. So 39 was the new topic we did on Wednesday. That was when you were solving for a letter, but there were two of them. So I'm solving this for x. Let me get a red pen here. So I'm solving for x, and there's an x here and an x here. Regardless, I have to get the x out from the denominator. So I'm going to multiply both sides by xy. That's what I have shown here. So that on the left, that gives me xyn. But now I have an x here and an x here. What we said is when you have x's on more than one x term, you have to put them together. Since I can't combine them, I have to use the distributive property in reverse. Remember the distributive property in reverse, what that looks like, it's the same as the distributive property. Like usually we distribute and we get to here on the right side, but now I'm going from the right side to the left side. So I just look for a letter that's the same and I put that on the outside. So that's all we're doing here is I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, I have an X here and here. I have an X here and here. So now I can distribute in reverse. It's still called the distributive property and put the X here. That would leave me with the Y and the N and a 1. Then I can divide both sides by the quantity of xn minus 1. So that was my answer for that one. As you can see here. For part B, let me show that one line at a time here. So for part B, again, I want to get the x out from the denominator. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the quantity of x minus y. I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of the fraction here. Now you can distribute it or not distribute it. I chose to distribute it here because I have to put my x's together. Now here I can just combine my like terms. So when I add y and subtract x, for this one I'm trying to solve for y, but they wind up being the same like terms, so I can just put them together. So that one was much easier than the other one. All right, let me go over some from number 22. This is still from the book. We're solving for a. I have an a here and I have an a here. I want to put the a's on the same side. So now I have an a here and an a here. When I have two a's, I have to distribute backwards, put the a as a single term, a single factor, leaves me with an x minus w, and then I can divide both sides by the quantity of x minus w. Remember, if you have negative 5 over negative 6, it's the same as positive 5 over positive 6. So if I have this answer and the book has every sign different, so if they have positive, positive, negative, positive, it's the same thing. All right, we said we cannot cancel like this. Don't forget that you cannot cancel like this because of the addition. All right, the worksheet number 1, and hopefully this was all posted. If you didn't look at it, hopefully you took the time to look at it. If not, make sure you get in that habit. There's two ways. You can either distribute and then multiply by 3 like on the left side, or you can multiply by 3 over b. Now, if you multiply by 3 over b, watch what I'm doing here. I multiply both sides. This cancels. So the only thing left on the right side is just here. I don't distribute it to the inside of the parentheses there. And like I said, this was all posted on Wednesday night. The rest of these were posted as well. The difference between number 1 and number 4, it was the exact same problem, but number 4, we were trying to solve for b. So I would just multiply by 3 to get rid of that 3. Divide by the quantity of 2a minus, plus c, and then I'm finished. Now let me just go back to number 1. And if you did it the way on the right, like once you get to here, to this step here, I can't divide this by 2 because then I wind up with a complete mess over here. I can't have a fraction and a fraction. So what we've learned is dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by a half. So if I multiply by a half, that's going to wind up canceling here. This is over 1. And then that gives you what you do have to distribute it here. That gives you what we have as my final answer. Again, the W here is really W over 1. So that's part of the top. All right. Number 3. You can't have the r on the bottom. So that's why I have to multiply both sides by r to move it to the numerator. And then I can divide by f. Absolute value we've been practicing for a little while now. The key is we have to have 2 equations and we get 2 answers. Number 6, you would subtract first, then divide by -3. This is when you write the 2 sentences. This is when you decide if it's no solution. So I have 2 sentences, and the answers, again, this was all posted. And the last one, when I subtract 10 and divide by -5, at this point I have the absolute value equals a negative, which always gives me no solution. All right. If the substitute did not pass out the yellow notes, you can ask the substitute nicely to pass out the yellow notes. And you can always pause the video if the substitute is still passing them out or if I go too quickly through anything. So if you look at number 1 on the paper, this is not the question for number 1, but let's just look at this picture. So how would I find the distance between 2 numbers? The distance between 2 numbers is always found by subtracting the bigger one minus the smaller one. So in this particular case, the distance between these 2 numbers, and there's plenty of space on the right, you can write any of this. So the distance, that's not what the question is asking, but we're going to need that. So the distance between these is simply 6 minus -2. So that's 6 plus 2. So these are 8 apart. I can just count 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. I can just count the spaces, but I can just subtract the bigger one minus the smaller. That tells me how far apart they are. Let's just look at number 2 and do the same thing. How far apart are these 2 numbers? I would just do -2 minus -6, which gives me -2 plus 6, which gives me 4. Again, clearly I can just count 1, 2, 3, 4, but we want to understand if the numbers are further apart. I don't want to just count. Next thing is, how do I find the midpoint? How do I find the middle of the 2 points? Well, the middle of anything, I can just take the average. So if I want to find the middle of number 2, again, clearly if I'm 4 apart, I can just count 2, and that's fine too. But it's the average. So the middle is the average, so I can just add them and divide by 2. -6 plus -2 over 2 gives me -8 over 2, gives me -4. So I know the middle point of this is -4. Let's do that on number 1. If I wanted to find the middle point, I could do the average of those. -2 plus 6 over 2 gives me 4 over 2. So the middle would be right here, would be a 2. So the last thing then, how would I find the distance between the midpoint and each point? Okay, I'll give you a second. You can pause the video, find the distance between the midpoint and each point for both just numbers 1 and 2. Okay, hopefully you found those. So if this is my middle, again, I could just count or I can just subtract. So if this is my middle, I could just say 6 minus 2 means it's 4 from here and it's 4 from here. Sorry, I'm using a pen that's not as easy to work with. Let me just fix that. So it's 4 from here to here, and it's 4 from here to here. Do the same thing here. I would subtract, it's always the bigger one minus the smaller. So -2 minus -4 would be -2 plus 4. So it's 2 from here to here, and it's 2 from here to here. All right, so let's get to the actual question on the yellow paper. It says, write an equation involving absolute value for the graph. Okay, so write an equation involving absolute value. Okay, that's your goal. When the directions say that, that my goal is to write an absolute value equation for this picture. So I know absolute value is distance from 0, but in this case, 0 is not the middle, so it's not the distance from 0. So here's what I want you to do. Write down this formula. You can put it at the very top, you can put it on the side, wherever you have room. So it's the absolute value of x minus the middle, the midpoint, whatever you want to call that. Sorry, my lights are going off because there's no motion in here. All right, so the absolute value of x minus the middle equals the distance from the middle to each point. That's why we just went through all those specific numbers, and then it should be really easy. So once I know this formula, writing the absolute value problem is really easy. Okay, so we already said that the middle here was 2. We already said the distance here to each point was 4. So my formula is just the absolute value of x minus the middle is 2, equals the distance from each point, which the distance from the middle to each point would be 4. That's my answer. That's all you have to do for each of these. So what that means is, okay, I'm trying to find these 2 points. They're the same distance from 2. 2 is the middle. So this is saying they're 4 inches away from 2. So the distance between the middle and my answer is 4 inches. All right, if that doesn't make a lot of sense, if you know the formula, that'll give you the right answer, and it'll make more sense as we practice more. All right, so number 2, we already found the middle. We said the middle was -4. We said this distance here was 2. All right, so my formula says x minus the middle. Now, if it's minus, that's going to be minus a negative. So minus a negative. Thank you. Sorry, I'm making a video.
You're good. Sorry.
All right, so it's the absolute value of x minus a -4 is equal to the distance from the middle to each point. So the distance here we said is 2. We would just write our final answer, though. We never want to have 2 signs, so it's just the absolute value of x plus 4 equals 2. And that's all there is to it. All right, number 3. So what do I need? I need 3 things. I need the middle. I need the distance from the middle. So I can find the distance of the whole thing, but I really don't need that. So let's just start with the middle. The middle, I find the average. -4 plus 4 divided by 2 gives me 0 over 2, gives me 0. So 0 is my middle. Again, you can just look at this since the middle is 0. It's really easy. This is just 4 inches away on that side. It's 4 inches on this side. Or you can just subtract 4 minus 0. So my formula says the absolute value. Now, it doesn't have to be x. You can use any letter you want. You want to go crazy and use y. That's fine. So the absolute value of y minus the middle equals the distance between the middle and each point. So this winds up being just the absolute value of y equals 4. Again, this is easy to see that, okay, that's what absolute value means. So this is saying the distance from 0 equals 4. But that's only for the problems where 0 is the middle. Like on these, it's the distance from the middle, which happens to be 2. That's why we write it this way. Go ahead and pause the video and try 4 and 5 on your own. Once you finish both, you can resume and make sure your answers are correct. All right, so hopefully you paused and tried this. So I need to find the middle. The middle is found by taking the average. -4 plus 6 over 2 gives me 2 over 2, gives me 1. So 1 is my middle. The distance from here to here, again, we can just count, but the distance is 6 minus 1 would give me 5. So it's 5 to here and 5 to here. So my formula says the absolute value of x minus the middle equals the distance from the middle to each point, and that's all there is to it. So pretty easy lesson for me to be going. And the last one, number 5. So my middle is -7 plus 1 over 2, which is the average. -6 over 2 gives me -3. So -3 is the middle. The distance here would be 1 minus -3, would be 1 plus 3 gives me 4. So it's 4 there and 4 here. The way I write that as an absolute value equation would be the absolute value of x minus the middle. So it's minus -3 equals, then the distance between the middle and each point is 4 inches away. You do not have to write the line with the two signs. You can go directly to here. Absolute value of x plus 3 equals 4 would be great with me. Your homework has just a few of these from the book. I don't think you need a zillion practice on these. Most of your homework is everybody's favorite, which are the word problems from this chapter, consecutive integers, and all those kinds of things. So your homework is, what color? It's an orange paper. You can ask the substitute to pass that out now. And you can go ahead and do the problems on here and the orange paper. And the answer key is online. Again, our test is Tuesday. Have a great weekend.